Hey, my name is Luke, and I'm an addict. That's such a great introduction. For those of you who know Kurt, he's like, you just got such a beautiful way with words, man. And I'm doing recovery with you is like the greatest honor. So, just to start with that. So, my name is Luke. I'm an addict. Really, really grateful to be here. Ripley is such an important part of my story. Like the first thing to know about me, I'm like deeply in love with Narcotics Anonymous as a way of life. Like I believe in this. I root for us. Sorry. Okay. Is this any better? Is this okay? Okay. So I was saying, so Narcotics Anonymous is really important to me, and I believe in what we do here enough that like I built my life around it. And a little over 10 years ago, my clean date is September 2nd of 2011. And so my first Ripley was the Halloween Ripley. And I got to go to hi, Jamie. And I got to go to that because someone had paid for their like stay and stuff, and we lost them. And I didn't know what Ripley was. And they were like, we have a seat. Like, we have a seat in a car and we have a bed for you if you want to go. And that's how I went to Ripley for the first time. I didn't want to go. If you're in active addiction, you do not expect people to treat you very well. You're not used to people's kindness. You're not used to generosity. If someone says like, hey, we're going to get in the car and like somebody else is driving and it's going to be 5 hours each way, and there's like kind of a bed and kind of a toilet when you get there. It was like not something I was super excited for. And I got here and it was a little rough at first. I will say the car ride to my first Ripley is like one of the most impactful like moments of my life. Like the way that you guys love on each other is like so unique and so beautiful. And staying clean a day at a time is the most beautiful message. And like just getting to watch people be clean together and treat each other half decent was really remarkable for me. So I get to my first Ripley. I had been trying to get clean for a very long time, unsuccessfully. Like I would frequently get like 30, 60, 90 days. And so I was like always in that place of like, I'm really excited to get all this stuff back. And you like, like I would stay clean long enough to fill out the applications and get into grad school, but I couldn't stay clean long enough to like go to class. And so I was always in that place in my recovery. And so by the time I made it to Ripley, I had so much evidence that this was not going to work for me. And I heard a speaker there. And there are so many things that I like quote regularly at meetings from this speaker that I heard at Ripley like more than 10 years ago. And she talked about what it was like to not have a drug of choice. She talked about what's it like to feel like you're fucking unlovable and come into the rooms and let people love on you. And it cracked my heart open. You know, I had like a Grinch moment. And it cracked my heart open wide enough that, like, by the time the speaker was done, and we had the clean time countdown. If you have like 90 days or less, will you raise your hand? Thank you. Like, you're fantastic. We're so glad you're here. We're really glad you're here. There's like so much cool stuff that's going to happen specifically here at Ripley that is like really going to dramatically transform your life, and I think for the better. But I had that first speaker, and it was just enough to crack the door open to where I thought, could this work for me? Could this work for a junkie like me? Could this work for somebody who's like tried so many times Is there something out there that could work for even Luke? And the Clean Time Countdown happened, and I had my like greasy crew of homeboys that like would maybe get 2 weeks at a time and then relapse. And so those were the people that I knew. And then there were a couple of people where I got clean that had like a couple months. During the car ride, I found out that one of my friends had a year clean, and I was like, no way, get out. That's not possible. No one can get a whole year clean at a time. And then the Clean Time Countdown happened, and somebody stood up with like 35 years clean. And I remember looking at my friend, and just my jaw was on the floor. And I was like, there's no way that that's possible. And then so the way that the Clean Time Countdown happens is like it's not just one person. And eventually like the whole room was standing up and everybody had the day clean. And the power of that image, to be able to say like, I don't think that there's anything that can heal me because I'm so broken that there's nothing that can work for people that use the way that I do. And then you look around and you see this image and say, but it does. It just really, really does. I can't look at Kurt anymore. You're killing me. So I saw that, and in that moment, I said, whatever force this is, it's a force greater than me, and I want to dedicate my life to like building into whatever this is that these people have here. And my early recovery was such a cool journey. And I don't know if there's anybody that's here from when I got clean, but I got clean in this like small town in Kentucky. And there was a really small kernel of people kind of doing recovery, but they were doing it really hard. And that was the thing that was new for me, because I had watched, myself. And kind of what I would do is I would dip into meetings late. I would leave meetings early. I would have a sponsor that I would hit up for cigarettes and rides to meetings. And I would that was my recovery program. And I had never really wanted to go to a meeting every day, and these people were going to multiple meetings like every single day, and which I thought was totally pathetic. But it was like such a good model for me because I watched it and I was like, well, so Luke, you're living at your dad's house. Like I got fired from the worst job you could imagine. Like the last house on the block would not have me. And then I could look around and I could see what this was doing in the people's lives. Even with like zero clean time, you could look around and see the difference between what I was used to in active addiction and what the people in recovery had. And so I was with these people, and I tried to do what they did. There was like a morning meeting, a noon meeting, and an evening meeting every day. I got a coffee commitment at the 8 a.m. meeting, so I had to be there every single day. If you're new and you want to try to stay clean, find an 8 a.m. meeting every day and get the coffee commitment, because it's like waking up so early and starting your day with recovery and being there every day. It's a really good practice for tone for what your life is going to look like. And so I would do the 8 a.m. meeting, and then after the 8 a.m. meeting, people would go out and they would eat breakfast together. So I would like wake up, I would go make coffee, I would go to the 8 a.m. meeting. I would not have a car, not have gas money, not have money for food, not have money for cigarettes. And I would just be like, I hope that I can get a ride to breakfast. I hope that when I get to breakfast, there's somebody that also went who is willing to pay for my food. And I did that every day for like months too. And then after that, we would and by the time that happened, there was a noon meeting. And so I could ride with somebody, be like, hey, even if you're not going to go, will you drop me back off at the place where the noon meeting is? And I'll hang out there, make coffee again. And then the same thing would happen after the noon meeting, where people would go out and they would fellowship. And so I would get like a couple more hours clean. And it was just like, think about a building and you're building it brick by brick by brick. And that's what I did. It was just like hour by hour by hour. And I've been clean for a little bit more than 10 years. I've been doing recovery for like 20. But I have never once smoked crack in my sponsor's car. I've I was going to say I've never done it at a meeting. I have done it in the parking lot at a meeting, but I've never done it inside the meeting, which is the key. And that's what it took, because I didn't have the tools that I needed at the time to stay clean and build a life for myself. And so I would do that. The thing that I did that helped me the most was I really ingratiated myself. I found who the winners were, and I said, let me be a part of your life. Please, I'm begging you. And so after the noon meeting, I would find people that were oh, I got to go pick my kids up. I got to do this. I got to go to Home Depot, and we got to go get mulch or whatever it is that straight people do. And I'd be I want to go get mulch with you. Can I go? So I would go get mulch with the people, and then we would do all that stuff, and then eventually it would happen where the meeting started at 5 o'clock, and I would be it's 3:30, but can you drop me off at the church where the 5 o'clock meeting is? And man, some of the coolest conversations I've ever had happened in somebody's car on the way to go pick their kids up. And that was what I needed early on in recovery, man. After that meeting, I did the same thing. I would go out to eat with everybody. I would hope that somebody would pay for my food. I would be hey, you guys are hanging out. Am I invited? And if you don't know how to play rook or euchre or something like that, learn how to play. It's a great asset in recovery. And we set up and we played rook all night. And I was very lucky that where I was just had a rich group of people who were very new and really in love with recovery as a way of life, and were willing to stay up till 3 a.m. every day and play rook with me. And then I got to wake up at 6:30 the next day and do it all over again. And that is what early recovery looked like for me. And I look back at it now and I think about all the times that I tried to get clean unsuccessfully. And I think about what the difference was. And it's just so obviously the people. It's the you guys. So you don't know it, but you were the glue that is holding somebody's life together. You were the magnet of why somebody wants to come back and get another fucking day clean, And we have this thing that we say, which is that the ultimate weapon for recovery is another recovering addict. And the thing that we never say is that's you. It's not other people. It's you are the ultimate weapon. And if you have a day clean, you are a miracle to someone who has always wanted to get a day clean and never been able to, And so the people that were there just really, really saved my life. And then I accidentally didn't use for 3 months because I was so busy. And eventually, you guys got me a job. I had never worked a real job before, an actual. You have to go on an interview. You get a W-2. I had never had anything like that before. And you guys got me a job cleaning motel rooms at the nastiest motel and the worst piece of shit down you've ever seen in your whole life. But it was the greatest job of all time, and I was working with other addicts. And so I got to sit around and we would we had 30 days clean. We'd be well, to me the third tradition means this. And some really, really healthy stuff going on there. But so just this life, the moment that I actually started to do the stuff that's in chapter 5, what can I do? There's a list of things of if you want to stay clean, we have some experience doing that. These are the things that we do. And the moment that I started to do that stuff, the moment I started to go to meetings, the moment I started to tell people my secrets, the moment I started to really listen to people when they talk, the moment that I started to do those things, my life accidentally transformed into what it is today. So I grew up in like not the best place, and Kurt had kind of mentioned that a little bit. You know, it was just like it was really tough the way that I grew up, and you know, one of the things that happened to me was I think like many people, I was a victim of sexual abuse when I was like a pretty young kid. And I'd always been kind of like swishy. I don't know if that word makes any sense to anybody, but I'd always been kind of a sissy. And eventually my parents found out that I was getting abused. And they were like very upset kind of in their own way. And instead of being like, we're so sorry, they like sent me to conversion therapy when I was like 7, because in their mind I was having this like very consensual relationship with this like 40-year-old man that they had let sexually abuse me. And so like from like a very early age, but especially from that point on, there was just like a thing, there was just like this really loud voice in my head that was like, everything that happens to you is your fault. It's your fault because of the way you are. Who you are is something that you can't change, and it's fundamentally bad. And, and that like moment, those like decisions that those people made for me, because I was too young to make decisions for myself, like really, really changed my life in a big way. And eventually like I would grow up and I would like reenact those things. And I was like 13. I had a boyfriend who was 40, and I think that now like I have friends in the program who have kids that are 13, and I'm just like, I cannot imagine that an adult man like dated me when I was that age. It's just like preposterous, but it's the thing that happened to me. And as a result of that relationship, I got charged with trafficking when I was like 14 years old. And I was like Mr. Valedictorian and stuff, and they came into school and they like took me out in handcuffs, and it was like so traumatic. I highly discourage you from ever getting charged with trafficking. If you haven't yet, don't start now. It's like not a fun experience. But as part of that experience, I got introduced to a 12-step program, and I got court-ordered to meetings. And it was very cool because I got to meet a lot of older people. The program was very, very different back then. It was much smaller. And specifically where I was, it was a bunch of like Vietnam vets, and they all would do the thing where they would wear leather vests with no shirts on underneath it. And then I was like 14, and I like would have on a tank top, and like I had my little highlights. And my mom would like drop me off at this meeting with these like biker dudes outside smoking, and she'd be like, "Fix him, good luck." And so I tried really hard for a long time to find a place for myself somewhere in recovery that would work for me. And I did this like shuffle of like, I would take a little bit of time, and you guys would like really build into me. Even the people that I was talking about, they like really loved me. They like really built into me. And you guys would do that, and you would come in and you would be my little fairy godmother, and you would give me some stuff. You would like give me some tools, and I would throw it away. And I did that over and over and over again. I did that for like 8 or 9 years. And I think about all the people, because I know what it's like now. Because eventually, if you keep coming to meetings and just like leave a restaurant and make somebody else pay for you, eventually you get to be the person that pays for those people, And I got to stick around long enough that I'm the person that pays for people who can't afford to buy their own food. And I've gotten to sponsor people, and it's heartbreaking. Because someone comes in and says, "I'm really broken, will you love me back to health?" And you say, "Yes, I would love to." And then they just break your heart. You have a front row seat to like all the destruction that happens when we use. And so I think about that experience, and I think about all the people who did that for me, the people who were saying like, I know that everything that's going to spring from our relationship, Luke, is going to be just devastating heartbreak, and I'm willing to love you anyway. I'm willing to like show up. I'm willing to like pick you up from the park and take you to a meeting. I'm willing to buy you cigarettes. I'm willing to take your phone calls where you cry. And I think about all the people that did that for me. And it's very cool because like I was saying, just like staying clean is a beautiful, beautiful message. And so those people from like 20 years ago, when they see me, they trip out. There was this moment where we were at, has anybody been to Kings Island? Ooh, Kings Island. Yeah. We were at Kings Island, and somebody saw me, and they had like the weirdest look on their face. And I found out later that there was like a rumor that I was dead, which is like not surprising. And I think probably just somebody like assumed that I was dead, and they would have been really close to right. But so like just for me to be alive based on having somebody watch me in the way that I used was like a very, very powerful message. We used to do this very cool thing where we would go to Columbus for these like road trips. And when I was in active addiction, a lot of the times they didn't have anywhere to live. And if you've ever not had anywhere to live, one of the things that is a struggle is like finding somewhere to take a shower. And I found this lady who had a soft spot for us because she had a kid who was one of us, and she worked at a truck stop. And I would go in there and I would like chat with her, and sometimes she would give me some food and stuff, but she'd let me take a shower there. And we were driving for me to be the speaker. This is me with like 2 years clean. I was like 10 days off of nicotine. I was like one of the most insane versions of myself historically. And I was very nervous. I had never spoken before. This is the first time that I'd ever spoken anywhere. And they were like, we need to stop and get gas. And I was like, I know this place. I've been here before. And we go in, and this lady is working. And she was like, who are all these people that you're with? I was like, I'm clean now. And she was like, that doesn't happen. She was like, because she had a kid, and her kid was one of us, and he never got what we did. And, oh, dude. And so for her to see me and just know that, like, even though her kid was never going to have the chance to get what we have, she got to, like, live a little part of that through me. And, you know, like, all the devastation that I've caused in my life, to be able to, like, give people these moments of serenity or joy is just, like, the gift that keeps on giving me, and it's so powerful. Early on in my recovery, I would, like, call Kurt, and I would be like, people at the meeting are sharing at me. And I'd be like, you'll never guess, I went to this meeting and so-and-so was there, and they shared right at me. And someone told me to rewrite the story of my life as if I wasn't the main character. They were like, what would this story be if this wasn't about you? Like, if you weren't the main, like, think about the people at the meeting. Do you think you're the main character in the story of their life? No, you're not. So, like, what does this look like for you if you're not the main character of the story of the universe? And it, like, really, really changed my life, because it means, like, you don't always get to control the way that people treat you. Like, if you demand respect from the world, you're going to have a really rough time. I don't want to read your 10th step. It's going to be disgusting, because I don't want to hear about, like, all the different situations that happened in your day where you didn't get enough respect. But if you sit down with the 10th step every day and you said, my ruler for how I judge myself and the way that I live my life today is how did I treat other human beings today? You actually have a huge amount of control over that. And, you know, if you rewrite the story of your life so that other people are the main character, you get really invested in other people's stories. And, man, if you're in here right now, if you were in the meeting at 7 o'clock and you shared about, like, graduating from college, congratulations, you're awesome. Like, getting to go on that journey with people when, like, you're just deeply in love with who someone is as a person, and you come back to a meeting and they share, like, I got my kids back today. If you're a parent, maybe that happens to you one time. If you're an addict and you fall in love with other addicts and you go to meetings every day, that will happen to you over and over and over again. The way that this stuff works, man, it's contagious in the same way that the disease of addiction is a contagious disease. And I believe recovery is contagious too. And my goal is to be so on fire for this that when people come into my orbit, that their life is also set on fire for recovery. I want my recovery to be contagious for people. If you do not have a version of recovery that you were excited to propagate out to people, that is like an emergency situation. Find a trusted adult and let them know, and we will get you one of those. And so the ability or the gift to be able to root for other people is just the most important skill set that I've ever learned from you. And it's so nice because, man, I was on a hot losing streak when I came in here. And, looking around at the world when you're 3 days clean, you'd have a really pretty depressing view of how nice of a place the world is. And when I first got clean, I just had nothing. I was living with my dad. My dad had gotten a third strike DUI, and so he let me live with him because he needed somebody to drive him. And that was the only reason I was not homeless, and I actually had somewhere to live when I got clean. And I was trying so hard to get a job. You guys had really walked me through getting an education. I had, apply to college and tell them that you got a felony when you were 14, and it's not super attractive to most colleges. And so I had all this other stuff, but then I also had a felony, and so but you guys coached me through that. You guys helped me find a school that was going to let me in anyway. And you guys said, here's pencils and, here's what you need. And I went off to college. And you guys helped me do that. But I wasn't able to stay clean for very long. I moved to a new city and a new state. I was 18 years old. And I didn't look up the meetings. And it took me 3 days to find dope. And, a totally different state where I'd never... And it's Chapel Hill, North Carolina. It's not like I was in Detroit and you just, walk to a certain street and there's drugs. But I was a coonhound. I had a sniffer for it. And I was able, it didn't take me long, I was able to find it. And so you guys had built this beautiful little thing for me in this crucible, and I destroyed it. And I wasn't able to keep that for very long. My dad, who's always this rescuer in my life, came down and got me and took me back home to Lexington, Kentucky. And I said, Dad, that was the last time. I don't know if anybody else has ever said that, but I was that was the old Luke. New Luke is not going to do any of that stuff. And he knew to not believe in me, but he had seen what you guys do, and he knows that what we do works. And so he believed in me enough to help me out a little bit. And I was able to go through, and there were some really, really rough times in my college. I was a valedictorian of my college, and you guys walked me through that process. And there were times when I was homeless. You guys let me sleep on your couch. You guys let me shower at your house. You guys told me that my body was worth something and that I didn't have to sell myself. You guys told me that when I was in an abusive relationship that I deserved to not get hit, and I believed you some of the time. And I went through that process, and I was homeless, living under a bridge, and then still managed to graduate from college somehow, and then went to law school. And if you've ever met some attorneys, man, those people can put some drugs away, dude. And And I stayed clean for like a second, and there was just like something in my DNA that cries out for failure. And the moment that I have something that's just like a little bit good, my brain is like, what's a way for us to leverage this to actually destroy it in like an even bigger, more dramatic fashion? And I think like a thing that I've heard before is like, if you're an addict, you would rather jump out the like first floor of a building than like the 32nd floor, and I'm just not like that. I love to like take a beautiful life that you guys have built for me and like destroy it magnificently, and so that's what I did. And kind of no matter what I was doing, I would like just not listen to suggestions. There's if you've ever worked the steps, there's this part in the 5th step where you've been doing a lot of like meditation and writing, and the 4th step is kind of like figure out who you are and then be that on purpose, like find your like inner identity and then like attempt to recreate that every day. And then in the 5th step, you get to share that with somebody. And then you get to share it and not break eye contact with them and check and be like, are you listening to me? Do you still love me? It's really, really intense if you do it the way that we did. And up until that moment, all the love that I had ever gotten bounced off of me because I had never let anybody see who I was, so that when you guys told me I was beautiful and perfect and that I deserved recovery and that I was worth something, I was like, well, maybe this like version of me that you think I am deserves that. But if you really knew how like rotten and broken I was, you would know that I am not worth that. And when you do a 5th step, someone looks you dead in the eyes and says like, I have heard this before. I know all this stuff, and I see everything that you think is broken about you, and it's all the stuff that makes you beautiful. And all the stuff that like makes you valuable in NA. And I try to talk openly about most of my stuff. And usually like when you share something at a meeting, you accidentally like become the face of that thing. And then like every time somebody has a sponsee that like writes about something on their 4th step, they're like, hey, we really want you to call Luke and talk about that. And so like for a long time I was like that for a lot of people. So to skip forward to recovery and what recovery looks like for me, I got clean in this small town in Kentucky, and then I really quickly moved to Cincinnati, Ohio, which I have traveled all over the world. I've done meetings in like multiple languages. I've shared at a meeting in a different language. And I've never found a place where they do recovery like they do in Cincinnati. It's just like a really beautiful place to be clean and stay clean and to do recovery. And if you're like, there was this place called the Serenity House, and I actually didn't get to go through the Serenity House, but I kind of did for free because I would like go over there and just like hang out all the time, and I would like go over there and do step work, and it was just like a beautiful place. And there were people who were early in recovery that were really, really excited for what we do here, and so I got to get clean in like the most fantastic place that you could ask for. And eventually I got this opportunity with my job, so I don't live in Cincinnati anymore. When I had about 4 or 5 years clean, I was interviewing for this job that I don't deserve. I have no idea how I got this job, but they asked me to move to Los Angeles. And I think, I don't know if I'm the only person that's like this, but I have like mad low self-esteem in a lot of ways. And so like the whole time during this, the interview process was 8 months long. And at each of these places, they were like really rude and shitty to me. And so I was like, I'm just going through this process for the experience. I think it's like good character building experience to go through and just be thoroughly hated and despised by somebody. So I was going through this process. Finally, I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure like I didn't get this job. And then like 2 months later, they called me and they're like, we need you to move to Los Angeles like next week. And so I had been somewhere where the most beautiful recovery I think in the world exists, and my recovery was really flourishing. And I had this opportunity to move to Los Angeles where I didn't know what the recovery was like. And in fact, it is very, very different, and I'm kind of facing that right now. They don't want to go back to meetings in person, and so there's no in-person meetings where I live. It's a very different vibe. Cincinnati is like full of young people who are getting clean, and then in Los Angeles we have this other great thing about it, which is it's the birthplace of NA, and there's a lot of people with like 40 and 50 years clean. There's a lot of people who detoxed on Jimmy K's couch and stuff like that. So it's very cool to be part of this rich cultural history of NA, but it's just very, very different. And there was never a moment in my mind where I said, this isn't cute or fun anymore, and I don't want to do NA. And if nobody has ever told you this, it's not going to look cute. You have to do it anyway. There are going to be like a lot of parts of this that you won't like. It'll be very uncomfortable. If you know some of the people that I know, it will be very uncomfortable. And you have to do it anyway. And so I'm very, very grateful for all those days where I went to 3 meetings a day. And I'm very grateful to the people who really discipled me, the people that I got to watch and said I'm going to learn how to do recovery. I'm going to look around. And then the people that I happened to look at were people who did a lot of meetings. And they were people who did compassion. They were people who did empathy. They were people who did reckless love on people that didn't deserve it. And so I'm really, really glad that I got to learn that, because that's not a thing that people do in LA. There is a thing where if you come in, it's here's a meeting schedule, we hope you stay clean, but we're not betting on you. And my experience in NA, I have just watched this work so many miracles in so many people's lives. And I think in a lot of ways, people get assigned to you. So if you've been here a while, you have this feeling when people get assigned to you that maybe the reason you got clean is that you were actually supposed to be there to help this other person get clean. And so you have these people that are assigned to you. And I think that I personally get assigned maybe the most broken people. And I think it's because when I got here, I was the most broken person, and there was somebody here who had been the most broken person before me. And there was Ivan there before that, who was a most gifted magician at fixing broken people. And there had been all these people that were there before me. And so I get to do that today, and it is very cool to look at a situation like moving to LA and saying, hey, I'm here. This is not necessarily my jam. And instead of saying what is it that I'm going to do different? Am I going to go to a different fellowship? Am I going to quit doing meetings? Am I going to start going to the gym instead of going to meetings? That I said, what is it that's not here? What is it that I need to be bringing to the table? And so I get to have my own little posse of people there, because I got people who propagated it for me when I was in Cincinnati, and I get to do the same thing, but in LA. There is a really cool artistry to living life when you've done the steps and your will aligns with your higher power's will. And a lot of stuff will happen that you could never really predict, and that sometimes you just sit back and you go, wow, this is amazing, man. And so part of that is getting to propagate out the way of recovery that I learned from somebody else. And I get to have my little crew of people that look up to me and care what I have to say. And you get this really cool opportunity that if somebody is broken, you maybe are going to be the right person that has the right thing to say, that heals them just a little bit to get them through the next day, so that they can get the next day's worth of healing whenever it comes up again. And So I have some like rules if I like sponsor you. One of them is that if you're a lady and if you wear a t-shirt to me, you have to wear a bra under the t-shirt. That's like a rule that I had to develop in the meeting. And if I have male sponsees, you're not allowed to wear gray sweatpants to the meetings. I don't abide by that. It's not appropriate if you're a lady, which is who I sponsor. And then there's some other really cool things that I get to teach, and one of them is, so we talk about contrary action. Somebody mentioned that in the last meeting. Contrary action is really, really helpful, especially when you're new in recovery, because it just says if you have an instinct, do the opposite of whatever that thing is. So if you have a thought in your head that says don't go to a meeting, you go to a meeting. If you have a thought that says, my boyfriend just said something really irritating to me and I'm going to let him know what's up, then maybe just keep that to yourself. And so that's what contrary action is. And having stayed clean for a while, my first thought is no longer just a really dangerous, reckless, gross thing. And so I don't always have to practice contrary action. But sometimes I do, and especially with the parts of myself that were like the hardest to fix. And so, so I'm an attorney kind of by profession, and I'm just very, very argumentative. And I really don't even care about being right. It's just like very fun for me. And I just like really, really gasses me up to be able to argue with people. And so one of the things that somebody taught me is yes, love it. And yes, love it is a spiritual principle. So if someone's like telling me something and I think it's insane, I'm like, oh my God, yes, I love that. And we call it yes, love it. And if you're in my sponsee, then you know about yes, love it. And if you're on my team at work, you know about yes, love it. And I have this other opportunity to lead a group of young people in my community, and they know about yes, love it. And there's like another thing where my disease is constantly telling me that I'm not going to have enough of like whatever thing. And it doesn't matter if it's attention, it doesn't matter if it's cigarettes, it doesn't matter if it's food. It's like you're just not going to have enough. You need to go in there and fight in every room that you're in to get like every ounce of everything that you can. And the opposite, the contrary action to that is generosity. And the way that we do generosity in my family is I got you, fam. And so if you're on my sponsorship family, you know about I got you, fam. If you are at work and somebody comes up and says like, hey, can you help me with this? And you don't have time and you hate them. You don't say, hey, I hate you and I really don't have time. Can you go ask somebody else? You say, I got you, fam. And for me, being able to rebuild a life around I got you, fam, and around yes, love it, has made me like really incredibly happy. And, the way that we live life here is pretty different. It's pretty different than the way that other people do it. And in order to like go out and be in the world, you're going to have to be like a raw nerve. That's kind of my experience with myself. Kurt mentioned the like extreme version of the human condition. So to be able to like go out, you don't get to stay in meetings. You don't get to say, I'm only going to live in meetings. You don't get to say, I'm only going to stay at home and play video games and rewatch the Twilight movies and get takeout. And then I'm going to wait until the next day and go to a meeting again. You have to go out into the world and kind of expose yourself and say like, hey, I'm going to give the world permission to hurt me. And I'm also going to go out and like really be myself like in this very big, brave way. There's a part in in the early parts of the basic text where, and this is so like saccharine almost, but it says like everyone has their own unique voice and their own song to sing. And it's like hard to remember that applies to, like it makes sense that would apply to Stephanie and to Kelly and to you, Erica. Thank you so much for your service, dude. Like, especially Sharon and Bev not being here, like that's created such a big hole. And like all the people that are doing service at this convention, just like thank you so much. Because like they are such fabulous, just like some really fabulous ladies and like huge shoes to fill. So thanks to everybody who stepped up and gotten to put this on. Because of the way that my recovery has shaken out, like speaking at Ripley is like a major bucket list moment. And if you're new and you relate to anything that I've said, you are the people who this kind of like works the most for. And that's really, really counterintuitive. But if you're here and you're a person that people have said like that person will never get it, there is actually like something very special about that. And I know because I was one of those people. And I just really pissed off a lot of people. Like early on in my recovery, I had always had male sponsors, and people said like stick with the gay guys. And I have this really specific problem where I cannot get sponsored by gay men because I always took the relationship too far. And someone came in and finally said, like, Luke, you have got to stop doing it. And I would be like, I don't know why I can't stay clean. And someone said, you've got to stop doing this. You've got to get a woman. And so I got a female sponsor. And then I started having an affair with that person's husband. And then, so I, like, my defects found a crack in the wall to, like, crawl through. So that's why I never do stuff like that, because your disease will find a way. And that person was spreading vicious gossip about me, which was the true gossip that I was having an affair with her husband. And she was saying some, like, what I thought was not very nice things about me. And so I did what anyone would do, which is I got into a fist fight with her in the parking lot at the church where our meeting happened. And this was like a very, very old meeting that had been around for a long time. And the police got called, and the church found out that the police had been called, and the meeting lost their meeting space because of the like really specific choices that I made to do that. There was like one other story that I wanted to tell here, which is just like when I got clean. There was this thing that was happening, and we didn't know what it was, but we know now it's called fentanyl. And that was like out, and we didn't know it. And the way that I experienced it was like me and my friends who had been like sort of successfully using junkies for a while, just like started to die, just like really, really, just like. Somebody died, and that had happened before. We had friends who had like gotten hot shots or OD'd or whatever, and so we knew that it had happened before. And so it was like one time it happened, and then two times it happened. We were like, whoa, it's like so close together. And then it happened just over and over and over again. And I didn't stop using. I like continued to use the same dope that all these people were buying, and was killing everybody. And eventually, one of my friends died, and so there's this thing that happens where I live. It's called a wake, and I think other people do it too. But it's like if you have a family member that dies, like in addition to the funeral, maybe like the night before, you have people over. And I remember having to go to this person's mom's house, and we brought a lasagna. Because that's like a thing you do so that the family will like have food at the house. I don't know if people eat it, but that's like a thing that we do. And I remember bringing this in and looking at Megan's mom's face and the disgust of her having to sit there and like entertain people when she just lost her kid to. And it's like when you lose somebody to addiction, it's not like a car crash. It's not like a medical disease. Like it's a gross, degrading thing to watch somebody. And then, I know for my parents, they waited every night for like 15 years that they were going to get the call that somebody had found my body somewhere. And eventually Megan's mom got that call. And she sat there, and we handed her this lasagna. It was the most awkward moment of my life. And I just made eye contact with her, and I knew that was going to be my mom, that my mom was going to have to get a lasagna from somebody, from one of my like deadbeat ass friends. And, eventually I continued to work the steps, and I got to make amends to my mom. And I had like done all the work that I needed to do on my side to like forgive her and like move on. And then when I asked her for forgiveness, she had a whole lot of stuff to say. And part of that was like, oops, sorry. Part of that was like, did you know that we didn't sleep for 15 years? You know, did you know that like I said goodbye to you? Did you know that like people would ask me how you were, and she would say, I don't want to talk about it. And I was like, I did not know that. And I've gotten to make amends to her through the process of staying clean. My mom is actually having surgery in like 2 weeks, and I'm flying to Pittsburgh and sitting with her. And not because I volunteered, but because she needed somebody, and the one person in her life who's like worth a shit is me. And she lost her dad, and the person that she wanted to call who was worth a shit was me. And so I'm like here with this person, giving her this lasagna. We like go through another round of people where we lose a bunch of people. Like one of the times I broke into this person's house after they got called to the hospital. And the ambulance took them to the hospital, and I got a call that they were there to go to the emergency room. And I didn't go to the emergency room. I went and broke into this person's house and stole the rest of their dope that had like just killed them. And eventually I got to the hospital and found out that they had died. And it sent me into such a tailspin that it was actually the thing that got me clean, because it got so bad. And like the feeling of despair that I felt giving Megan's mom that lasagna, like that just deepened and deepened and deepened. I got to where I was terrified of using the drug that I had been using, and I switched to this other drug that was legal. But I lived in a town where you couldn't buy alcohol in the town that I was in. It was a dry town. So I had to wake up at 8 a.m. and drive 45 minutes to buy alcohol and then drive it home. And every day I said, today's the day. This is the last time I'm going here. And it wasn't the last time I was going there. And I got so desperately sad. And I really can not put that into words, just the depths of sorrow and despair that I felt. But I don't have to, because if you're here, you know exactly what that pit in your stomach feels like. And I really just got to where I was really trying to die. I was just my body was shutting down. I could feel it. I spent all day throwing up. And I really, really, every day I went to bed and I said, today's the day that I hope I don't wake up. And I had a friend who had 60 days clean, I think at the time, maybe more than that. But she had some clean time, and I was I think I'm ready to try meetings again. And she was I think that's a good idea. And she was really smart. I think about it now, and I realized she went and she called her sponsor and talked to her sponsor, and her sponsor was stay the fuck away from that dude. Because she was very hands-off in my early recovery, is the way that I'll describe it. But she gave me a meeting schedule. And, another recovering addict is the ultimate weapon. A meeting schedule is up there. And if you read Chapter 5, What Can I Do? All of those things actually revolve around, go connect with another recovering addict. Every single one of them. And that was the gift that she gave me, was just, go connect, go, do this. And I went in. I cried at every meeting. If you are here and you're detoxing, you don't have to go to detox. You can, I detoxed in the rooms. I smelled like a very bad smelling person for like a while. I was like really, really struggling, and I detoxed in the rooms, and I went and I cried, and I wouldn't say that I was an addict. I wouldn't pick up clean time. I wouldn't read the readings. But I would come in and I would sit, and I did that for like long enough that eventually I got like 30 days clean, and you guys started to make friends with me. And that's when I got the copy commitment, and that's when I started like going to pick people's kids up from school and stuff. And it's just like the way that all of that, you just like never know what that thing is going to be, and it looks like a curse, but it's actually like a blessing. And I don't know the reason why I'm still here, and we've lost so many other people. But I know that what I do is I like do this shit like my hair's on fire. I do it like my life depends on it, because it does. And I know what it's like to bury another addict. And I have so many people in this room that I love so much. And I don't want my mom to have to get a lasagna. I don't want Kurt to have to go to my funeral, man. And so I go to meetings. I work my steps. I have like a beautiful 10th, 11th, and 12th step in my life today. Like preparing to speak here has like really made my meditation like off the chain. And there is this thing that somebody told me early on in recovery, which was like, go pray and ask your higher power how he feels about you, and then write about it. And I continue to do that, man. And I did that today, and he said, like, look around, man. You know? It's like, how can you have confusion about the way that the universe feels about you when you have this disease that's inside your heart that is working overtime to kill your ass, and you're here? You know? You're here. You probably have at least a friend you got a hug today of some kind. You know, like mostly we're doing pretty okay. You know? And so just for today, I'm like so outrageously grateful for the opportunity to speak here. I have this life that, like, if you had asked me early on in recovery to build a life for myself of my wildest dreams, I would have been like, I really want my dude to stop hitting me. I would really like to eat something that's not crackers and hot sauce from Wendy's, just like once a week. I want like a biscuit from KFC like once a week. Because like what you guys did to me, I didn't know that magic existed. And here I have like a beautiful life. My job fucking rules. I love my job so much. I love the ability to get to impact young people. I love the ability to get to impact my clients' lives. I'm in a relationship with the most awesome dude I think I've ever met in my whole life. And he's just really, really fantastic. And he doesn't hit me, but also he like built into me, man. We watched, if you're here from West Virginia, I made him watch The Recovery Boys with me. Yeah, because he's not an addict. And we watched it together, and he like leapt the entire time. He's like such a beautiful man, guys. And he like knew my friend who had stopped coming to meetings. He's like, man, why would you stop? Why would you stop coming to this? You know, like if this is on the table for you to like come and share in a part of like people's lives being transformed, how are you going to go out and use, you know, and be cut off from that? And so like he's not an addict, but he understands the importance of what we're doing. He knows that if anything ever came up where he was in conflict with my recovery, he's not confused. He knows that I would pick. He knows that this is like the most important thing for me. And he knows that sometimes that means I'm going to like get out of bed at 2 a.m. to take a call from a crackhead. And because that's crackheads like working hours. And he's like down for that. He's like signed up for that. So I have that. I have some really cool material stuff, but like the big thing is, like, I have a really good compass that you guys have built for me. And the true north that I have on that compass is like the relationships that I have with the people in the rooms mostly. And I get to have relationships outside with people like my mom and people like the people at work. But like my most meaningful relationships are with you guys, and the depth and clarity and like profundity and richness of those relationships is the thing that's actually like really important to me. And I think the 6th and 7th step really took the fun out of like basically everything else. And so the things that were left is the relationships with you guys, which I just like love so much and make my life so beautiful that I can't describe. And I'm just really grateful again for the opportunity to be here and speak into like, it's an honor to do the same program that you guys do. And I mean that. And that's all I got.